Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser, brought to you by our friends at Reckless Coffee Roasters. Do not forget, by the way, I should have probably shared that first, but let me bring up that image over here because we are already on the 13th, people. So some of us really have to get Christmas shopping. Angie is not a coffee drinker, so that doesn't save the day for me. But if you do have, if you do need saved, and you do have someone who's a coffee lover and I don't know, my wife, you must be the only one. But yes, your time is running out, so you got like 4 days to get into like Christmas deliveries. So head on over there, have the coffee shipped. It's good stuff. We can all confirm over here because that's what I have in the world's greatest dad, which is fading away more and more over here with every other dishwash. But our close second, Gordo, is in the house. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Just recovering from all those games. Got one more, obviously, but it's not as hard for me as it is for the players. But
I know that's debatable. That is debatable. And then the gravy train. John is with us. What is happening?
I'm good. Nice to be back with the Wednesday crew again. And yes, the gravy train needs to be replenished a little bit after a bad run of form, but will not be moved. We're not going to be moved, people. We're going to get there eventually. But yeah,
I hope so for his sake and our sake. Yeah, because I mean that's something like we talked about. I know during the game, your boy Gravy over there just doing like some silly challenges and stuff like that. But
yeah.
um, Steve Saito wants the coffee. Hey, Reckless Coffee Roasters, go check them out right there. Thursday is with us this morning as well. Okay, so let's start with this. Gordo has hoping someone help Roy home. Uh, Uncle Roy had a lot of comments to make after the game, immediately on the pitch. I had watched that, and then yesterday, now that Facebook thinks I'm a huge Roy Hodgson fan, they were like, "How about this? Did you watch this?" Like, and so I saw a little bit of the press conference as well. What do you make of his comments? Because it more aggravated me than anything else. But I want to get your take, Gordo, because you're the one who brought it up in the first place. So, what did you think of the stuff he said after that match?
I thought it was a manager that's been doing it for so long and been working with like the British media for so long that he said what everyone was thinking and made it very pointed at obviously it came at our expense. And so there was a little seething, but it was also coherent, which I was surprising. and, and I don't know, it just felt like a professional diss. And I was like, like I don't think we have a great thought of Roy for Liverpool fans just because of like he just seemed completely incompetent when he was the manager. However, like when you read like Steven Gerrard's autobiography, Kara's autobiography, those guys that got to work with him, they really appreciate him. I mean, he's one of Gerrard's like favorite managers that he had at Liverpool. And just like saying that he's like so intelligent in the game. And so it kind of gave me a little bit more respect for him. I still he still sometimes is the laughing stock of my household, that's for sure. But it seemed like a very like political jibe almost. Like he could have been up there in a political debate versus Klopp or Pep or whatever, and he would have held his own.
It was very, I don't know if you caught it, John, but it was very
I did, yeah.
like I don't know, like I guess like a mature and yeah, professional is probably a good word, but I mean it is kind of like a gather around kids, I'm gonna tell a story kind of thing when Roy talks. So even in the press conference, he's like, gather around, the old man is talking, like it's like that Simpsons thing. Hey kids, the old man is talking. So, like the way he presented is fine, but and initially when he started talking after on the pitch afterwards, he said something about, like the referees being in the game. We're talking referees. And I thought he was going the other way. I thought, we should focus on the game. We should have done this or something like that. So then he starts bitching about the refereeing after saying we shouldn't be talking about the refereeing. We're talking about the referee and stuff. Why do you say, what do you think of his comments?
Well, if we're talking about what he said about the officiating, he's not wrong. For one, I agree with him. There's something fundamentally wrong with the officiating side of the game. if he was referring to the context of our game to slate the officials into them having a problem, then I think he's got another thing coming, because everyone talks about the penalty that was given, it was delayed and all that. It was
Yeah.
several plays before. It's still the right call. I think it's still the right call for me. I don't
Yeah.
know you two. I think it's still the right call that Kwanzaa got him there. It's probably a pen, if they caught it in real time. So fair enough, we're given the pen. And the two yellow cards for IU warranted, I would say. So yeah, I think he's right. But if he's referring to it in the context of our game, then obviously he's got another thing coming. I think our game was actually well officiated, if I do say so.
Ooh, I don't know about
Wait,
that.
Paul says, do I look like I can't find my penis? But it's right here. No, the mission accomplished. That was that part. The thing he complained about was the first yellow card, and that's the one that I found the most annoying, because we've all done it, right? I was a master of this, killing time. And you can do all kinds of stupid things. You can pull a sock. You can look the other way as the ball is given to you, so it rolls past you, goes the other way. There are like so many things you can do. But when you do them at the risk of knowing that there's a line, right? Like you kind of can tell. You're like, I'm getting really close. I'm not going to do anything for a couple of minutes. I'll go back to my shenanigans afterwards, kind of a deal. So then if you don't want to get a yellow card, don't instruct your player or don't have your player try to slow down the game by standing in front of the ball. I wish more of our players did that. I wish more other players did that and just kick it right into them, because that's a guaranteed yellow cards, as opposed to kind of like, because when you show the ref, usually they tell them to back off and an immediate yellow is not given. A talking to is given. If you kick it into the player like Van Dijk did there, you do get the other player the yellow card. But I don't understand what he's bitching about when, that's what, then don't waste time. If you don't want to be in those situations, you didn't have to put yourself in that situation.
Yeah, the yellow cards I don't disagree with. That's the second one is just a classic. You would have gotten a yellow for that because it's one of those professional fouls that just kind of breaks up play. And I think it was one of those things where the ref knew given the time and the situation, because Liverpool were mounting even before IU was sent off. Liverpool were mounting for that equalizer. I don't think any of us thought that they weren't going to score. Whether or not we were going to get 1 point out of it or 3, I don't know. But I felt we were going to score. I was pretty confident in that. And so that was, I think the ref had already made a decision. It was a yellow. And then he was like, oh shit, this guy's already got a yellow. I've got to send him off now. And so you see that sometimes where the refs already decided and then realized the person that he's about to give it to is being sent off. The thing that I have an issue with I think is like a microcosm of the issue with VAR is the fact that he calls Virgil van Dijk in real time. Now that 100% is a penalty. What makes it not a penalty is obviously Endo gets absolutely steamrolled, and they have to, bring that back. And that's perfect example of VAR coming to bat. It's a clear-cut penalty. Virgil definitely gets the man, not the ball, and it's reversed and no penalty because of something that happened in the play. But Kwanzaa does the exact same thing, and the ref doesn't call it. So it's like VAR has put some grain of doubt in the referee that he's not even officiating the same game in the way that he was 30 minutes ago. And so I think that that's what Roy has a problem with, because when you look at those, I had trouble. I stepped away and came back, and I thought they were just replaying the Virgil van Dijk incident again. Like, it is almost identical what Kwanzaa and Virg does. And so for the ref to say, yes, in real time, this is a penalty, and no, in real time, this is not a penalty, that to me is like, that's the problem with VAR. The refs don't even know what they're doing in the same 90 minutes.
But that's not the thing for VAR, is it? I did not have an issue. Serzi says his issue is that Palace players didn't ask for the second penalty. VAR refereed the game like they did. Brighton got a pen versus us during the COVID season. I know it took forever, but I don't know. I feel like both calls were, all the calls were at the end right. Did it take a lot longer than it should?
Yeah.
Yes. But at the end of the day, if we're already stopping the game, this is where I'm at. If we're already stopping the game, if it takes an extra 15, 20 seconds to get it right, I am okay with that, as opposed to good process boys trying to rush shit and then making the wrong call and screwing over a team like we got in the Spurs game.
Yeah, I think at this point, Tim, it's like baby steps. We've already seen how absolutely, how bad this could get. So any sort of progress, and in this case, it's getting the call right. Like not right away, but eventually getting it right is like a small step forward. One giant leap for mankind kind of deal. So that's why, I wasn't thrilled, but seeing, to Sir Z's point saying here that the Palace players didn't ask for the penalty, I think the angle of Kwanzaa hitting him was kind of difficult to see as well in real time. Like, because he was essentially sandwiched between Van Dijk and Kwanzaa, right? So it would be probably difficult to see, from the side of Kwanzaa hitting Ayew. Was it Ayew or Mateta? I'm not sure. The guy getting hit, it would be hard to see from that angle, him getting sandwiched in between. So I think that's why they didn't complain. But yeah, like you said, Tim, it was the right call. And I agree with it eventually. And, thankfully, rather, it didn't affect us in the end. So, again, it's better than the whole good process boys thing,
But I think Roy is complaining, Gordo, because he's more like the old school thing.
Yeah.
Like, just let the ref make the wrong decision and we just keep playing kind of thing, as opposed to... So it was more about the system and the fact that this is what we're doing, I felt, as opposed to... Or it was more of a, this is why I hate VAR kind of a thing, as opposed to complaining about specific calls in the game.
Yeah, and also the media is always super unfair. It's like when in the UFC somebody gets knocked out and then there's a microphone in their face. Like Roy just went from having all 3 points at home to having nothing, and then they're like, "What do you think about that?" And he's like, already has trouble formulating.
Mike's literally here.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Roy.
He already probably forgot what he had for breakfast, and now they're asking him to, like, what just happened? I just like, oh, that's a whirlwind for, like, imagine your grandma who's in, hospice or whatever, and you're like, hey, what happened at there's a car accident. Please describe it right now. So it's always, you're always going to get like a weird, like, combination. I mean, I'm even doing it right now where, like, I have this emotion and I know what I want to say, and then it's like my tangents go off and you're like, oh, and the yellow card sucked, and oh yeah, there was that VAR issue, and you're just like remembering things. So sometimes it's like disjointed, because you're right, it did feel like this, well, back in my day.
Yeah,
it kind of moved along with it.
Yeah, I thought he was going to like, I think coffee in the cafeteria in the morning. Maybe that's too bitter or something. Like, while I'm at it, like a streak of complaining over here. Let me get that out of the way.
It starts with bringing cream into the cafeterias and it ends with implementing VAR. Once you give them an inch, they take the mile.
Yeah, I mean, I think. But then the odd thing is, then when the second one that Facebook was like, oh, you got to watch this. It was his press conference, and he literally spent the first 2 minutes talking to media and asking them not to report on his demeanor and anger, but what he's saying. And he was like, I'm fair with you guys, and you guys be fair with me. And I do think, I don't know, because of his age, status, what he's done for the game and stuff, you can kind of tell that he does get like a different level of respect compared to, I mean, if Klopp says that in the beginning of a press conference, don't report on this, report on that, they were like, oh yeah, keep this going. They're going to be listening more. Whereas Roy is like, okay, Roy, okay, what do you have? Like, it's just like everybody's like waiting on it. But so Z says, Seth, remember, he's also manager, was in charge of an England team that lost to Iceland with Gerrard. Yeah, I mean, there's that too. I mean, like I say, you can kind of question, even from Klopp, you could tell on the sideline there's like a huge level of respect. I don't know. Is that? I mean, obviously he has some like failures in his management career, Gordo. Is it just age, or is it just the way Roy kind of carries himself too? Like you say, like you listen to him, and you do want to give like the old man his rant time, so he can just kind of like what I do on the show, like you're just gonna give the old man time to rant.
Yeah, well, you have to give him props because he's been in the game so long. Think about all the changes that he's seen as a manager, and he's had flops, yeah, but he's also had some really great successes in his career, and some of the world's best in the game have said that they've enjoyed working with him and thinks he has a brilliant mind for tacticians. And we forget sometimes that, yes, everyone's got a different badge, but these managers talk to each other all the time. You know, they're calling each other up, asking for, hey, what did you see in this game when you matched up against them? And, you know, so there is some kind of, you know, like a brotherhood or camaraderie between them. And I think that he does hold that old man esteem. He's just been in the game for so long. How could you not?
So let's get to, I mean, yeah, it was just, I don't know. It was interesting to listen to, and I started listening to him like, yep, go ahead. And then it was just like, once he started complaining about the yellow card for time wasting, because he specifically said, I'm sick of like yellow cards for like time wasting, slow time, bro. Like, it's the rule. That's like saying like, I'm sick of, you know, like fouls when you pull the shirt, and, you know, it's the rule. Stick with the rule. If you don't like it, then tell your guys stop wasting time and not use it as your team's tactic and approach to the league. This just came out. I saw a lot of people like overly excited about Carvalho being called back. I don't know if they're under the impression that he's being called back to play or something like that, but it almost sounded like, you guys are not using him. If you're not going to use him, just send him back. We'll send him somewhere else, kind of a deal. What do you make of the fact that he did not get to play over there at all? I mean, not at all, but very, very minimal.
I think that might have something to do with his attitude. Maybe. Obviously, we won't know. But the way that he talked about not getting game time at Liverpool was certainly a bit of a red flag, I would say. And Matouche is right there. He's probably going to get even less minutes back at Liverpool. I agree. I don't see where he fits with us. He's too skinny. He's too lightweight to play in midfield. He's not as fast, not as creative to play on the wing. And, you know, he's definitely not going to play at a false nine role, because that role is, you know, if Darwin Nunez, with all his physical traits, can't play there, you know, this guy even more so. So, I really feel like, you know, we're just getting him back to probably loan him out to another club, or maybe use him as leverage for another deal, maybe for a 6. Certain guy in Fulham, maybe. Although I did send something regarding that we're probably not going to go for him. But yeah, I really think he's just probably trade bait at this point or something.
That's a good theory. I did not actually think of that. I actually thought of it as more, I mean, apparently we're not, I don't think we ever were. I still think he's going to Bayern. That was kind of like a deal that almost happened, that never happened. Probably should have happened. But that's a good theory right there. Are you buying what John is selling, Gordo, in terms of he's just like a bargaining chip? Like, we sent him to Brazil.
Yeah, because you'd assume that while he's young, he's already the finished product in terms of like, we probably know where his trajectory is, and we bought him because we had the assumption that we knew where he was with Fulham, and it didn't quite pan out, and like John said, his attitude may have also been a factor. And Klopp is one of those guys. I think we talked about it last week or the week before, that he's really no nonsense. It's, you know, you got a bit of shithousery in there, you're out. Sorry, but you're gone. He doesn't stand for that in the locker room. And so I think that there's only one place for him. I think if we wanted him, Klopp finds ways to incorporate the kids that he wants to play. And I think Carvalho is probably miles ahead of a lot of players at his age when we were playing him. And I think if we really saw something in him, that he wouldn't have went out.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't get. Sergi says, just bring Michael Edwards back and you'll sell Carvalho for like 30 million. I mean, he's really depreciating in value. Saida says, I don't buy the idea of recalling both Fabio. And I don't know if Reese is official. I know there were like a lot of gossips yesterday.
Matt Phillips.
Matt Phillips, come on, Saida, man. I swear. I mean, Matt Phillips, he puts his head everywhere. Which he does, and that's why he's probably a very good center back for a lot of teams. But so does Maguire. He puts his head everywhere. I mean, it doesn't just like go by. By the way, can we take a moment to laugh at Manchester United for like 30 seconds, something like that, and then we'll
it's unfair now. It's unfair to do that.
We'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming.
It's the goddamn socks, okay?
Which actually, let's touch on that. The results from yesterday, which is probably the best of all worlds for me, because, I mean, winning was an option where they can both go out of Europe. it was good in some ways to keep Galatasaray in Europe still, so they have the congested schedule against Fenerbahce while seeing United misery. I think the other way around, I would not enjoy it as much. This was like the dream scenario. But how do you think it affects Sunday's game, John? The fact that this is one thing they were kind of hanging their hat on for the rest of the season, and now that whole thing has fallen down.
Yeah, certainly they're coming in, very demoralized without their captain. Although I don't know what difference that would have made.
Which one?
Yeah. Without Bruno, yeah. I think Shaw is a big miss. I know. Obviously, people don't rate him because he's a United player, but I think he's been pretty consistent for them. I think I saw somewhere he got an injury. Maguire got an injury as well, so they're going to be missing quite a few players coming into arguably the best home stadium in the league. So you're never going to fancy them, even before this result, but even more so, I would think. I don't want to jinx this result, right? But obviously, we have a little bit of a leg up now, especially on the morale front. Given the fact that reports have been coming in with Ten Hag having some issues with the locker room and all that. So if there was a time to face Man United, I would say it's probably now, right? Before they get their shit together.
I almost worry about that though. I was thinking first there was joy, and then I was like, man, I don't know, because in some ways, guys that probably should be playing, I don't know about the center back situation they have. I mean, if Evans ends up playing, that's not really a guy that should be playing. But I think Gordo, does it make it where this is one thing to save your season? I mean, we've had some crap seasons, crap teams over the years, and you kind of circle a couple of games on your calendar, United, Everton, and stuff like that. And that's kind of like your win for the season kind of a thing, and you kind of carry that. Do you get that feeling, though, I guess, with this United team? In some ways, they can hurt you on the counter, which is probably what's going to happen. But at the same time, do you get that feeling that this team doesn't really care about saving the manager or saving the season anyway, so it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I think it's one of those where, you never want to say that it's a guaranteed whitewash and we end up, with egg on our face at the weekend, and it's super embarrassing. And then that's when all the fans, put the Norwich scarves away for another little bit, and Ten Hag gets to play on. And but right now the fan base is against the team. It seems like the team have given up on Ten Hag. I mean, you have to remember too, and they're not, they don't not look at social media, and they don't read the papers. Copenhagen, who went on, they have a budget 1/12 the size of Manchester United, or sorry, 1/20th, not 1/12, 1/20th. There have also only been 4 teams in Premier League history that have finished bottom of the Champions League group, and 2 of them are Manchester United. The other one is Manchester City, and then Blackburn Rovers after they won the Premier League in '92. But so all this stuff is accumulating. The fans who have endured just absolute misery at Anfield, one of the games that they are looking to avoid every year for the last 5 years is the very next game. I think that the club could not be lower, and I don't think there is a rallying cry, because I think at some points when your season's not going well, it's like, well, there's still Liverpool, we can still get them. I think that's gone. I think that the whole club is just a capitulated mess at this point. But again, I'm not going to say we're going to wipe the floor with them, but I don't think that there's going to be the rallying cry in the locker room where everyone, finds that Michael Jordan juice and goes out there and beats Liverpool.
Yeah, Sergi says United going to turn up like Guardiola's Barcelona on Sunday, and then revert back to playing like Norwich. And Saido says, I'm optimistic that United game will be the easiest so far.
Okay.
I feel like an early goal is all it will take to unravel that team.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Is that goal going to come, or we are now famous for conceding the first goal? And that's what I'm afraid of, on a stupid counter or something like that. Do you worry about that as much as I do? Because, I mean, this is – my brother is already playing they have no chance they're going to get hammered thing, so that he sets up the scene, so eases the pain for him, because I'm still talking about the 7-0 with him. So, but do you think is that a factor that they're more built for a counter, which kind of we would struggle against, John?
Yeah, they're built for a counter, but then we face teams that I think are better on the counter, like let's say the West Hams and so on and so forth, the Brentfords, and we absolutely dominated them at Anfield. Like I think that's the biggest factor that's going to play in Anfield with those plus 7,000 fans. Even if we do concede first, I doubted our powers of recovery last year because we did look tired, but this year we're sort of. I think it was Matucci said, is the mentality monsters back? Question mark. I think they are kind of on the way back. So even if we do concede, I wouldn't panic. If we do concede first, I wouldn't panic right away because I do feel like Anfield will eventually carry us over the line. And I think even with our injuries, significantly, we still have the better squad. Man for man. So I think that's gonna pull us off eventually.
Speaking of that, this one
Yeah.
seems a lot more serious than we initially thought. We almost assumed, I guess, in some ways, because he did not, Klopp really did not come out and say, yeah, he's gone for a while, like he did with like Matip and stuff, or Jota when it happened, who is on his way back next month from the looks of it. Who plays 6 then if this guy is out? Because we kind of assumed he's not there last week because he's going to be playing against United and we're playing safe, Gordo. Is that a concern? The fact that our 6 would be Endo, but then again, their 6 would be Amrabat. So
the championship matchup. No,
yes.
I don't know. In many ways, I feel like this sort of solves a little bit of a problem we've been having with like who the fuck plays in the 6. Now it's like, well, it has to be Endo, or you bring in Gravenberch to like actually, hold up that no. So
there you go. I'm the biggest Gravenberch fan here, and I'm just like, no, please,
even
no.
Sean was shaking his head. So it's a no.
That's why I was like, all right, yeah, I'll just stop. I'll stop. But no, I guess that proves my point. It solves the problem. There's no question. It's going to be Endo. And then, does he grow into that role? Does he become a staple? And do we realize, or maybe it's enough for Klopp and company to realize like, man, maybe we do need a solid 6 because the team looks more balanced that way. So it could be a blessing in disguise. I mean, Mac's not going to have a problem getting back into the team and getting minutes. So, when he's fit to go, he'll be back in the squad. But for the time being, it might open our eyes. And, I think it comes at a good time too, if we're going to open up any eyes for a legitimate 6 and the need for one, with January coming around the corner. So it could be a blessing in disguise.
But having said that, John, having seen that midfield with your boy Gravy, do you think Jones would replace him? Because obviously that was a very, very unbalanced, disconnected midfield with the trio we had with Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, and Endo. Do you expect to see somebody like Jones over there who kind of like, keeps everything under control?
Yeah. So far, I think that's our best midfield now with all the injuries. Jones, Endo, and McAllister. I'm sorry, Szoboszlai coming in. Gravenberch, I think, would be an excellent option coming off the bench if we're chasing a goal, or if there's a draw, or God forbid we're down. Him coming in would be a great, shot in the arm. I think having both sides of your midfield trying to create something isn't ideal. Sometimes you just need that guy. We talked about this quite a bit in like our old shows where everyone criticized the old midfield for just keeping things going, keeping the play ticking, passing it to the side, or, if they don't see an option, they don't force it. I think our midfield now, especially our best midfield, does that a bit too much. So having that kind of counterweight on that side with Jones is the right way to go. And again, this is coming from me, the biggest Gravenberch stan. He still has a ways to go. Like that first few months for him was probably like the adrenaline. Oh, he's new. And I think it was Matucci or someone who said it's the shiny new toy syndrome. And now that's kind of dissipated a bit, and teams are starting to adjust to our style. So it's up to Gravenberch to find that other next dimension to his game, and maybe Klopp to integrate him to the system better. Because right now, no, that's a no-go. Like that whole performance that he gave last time out against Palace, no-go, absolute no-go. And I'm gonna bring that question to you, Tim. Actually, you think the fact that Szoboszlai and Gravenberch, to an extent, have struggled because our style now kind of doubles up on the middle too much. And I know you're a big proponent on this, right? Putting Trent in that inverted role kind of focuses our attack more to the middle rather than giving us more options out wide when he was a true right back. So maybe there's a reason why Szoboszlai and Gravenberch have been struggling, because teams know that's where we're gonna attack. Lately.
I feel like it's just like trying too hard almost. I mean, when we watch this team, we watch this team all the time, right? And at this point, you almost know where the ball should
Cersei's got
go.
all the answers. Sorry.
Yes, Cersei says you, but you know what? That's probably the best theory, to be fair. But I think, meanwhile, Saido, dude, just give it up. This formation is not changing. He's not going to change. He will never change this formation. Just give it up. You have a better chance of Henderson coming back and captaining this weekend than him changing the formation in a United game. I don't think. We're just basically trying to plug the best pieces we can, kind of a deal. I just think, I don't know what you think, Gordo. I feel like these two guys both, instead of sometimes playing the simple ball or where the ball should go in the system, they're trying to do something cuter, smarter, or something like that. Like Thiago used to do that at times, but that was the role. I feel like, at times you gotta value possession, you gotta value movement of the ball and stuff like that, as opposed to trying to make a highlight happen. Is it just me that both guys seem to try to create highlights, as opposed to Gini did not create a lot of highlights, right? Like Hando did not create a lot of highlights. The role of this midfield is not necessarily to create those highlights. We'll take it as it happens. And I think everybody makes too big of a deal about like how many goals we get from midfield and stuff like that. Just do your role and let the stuff come to you. Because, if the ball lands on you, I have a lot better faith of, Szoboszlai cranking a shot from in front of the box than, for example, Gini. But I feel like they see their role as not the role that this system actually demands.
Yes and no, because they knew the players they were buying, which are both central creative players. The attack sprung from both of those players at their respective clubs. And to John's point, the attack is more midfield centralized. So maybe the system is changing. We haven't as fans adapted to it. And maybe, you've got somebody like Salah up there leading the line who's been playing the last 5 years in a certain way. And he's not, maybe we're just so used to seeing it come from the wings. And you have to remember that with Trent coming on the inside and no Robbo, it's almost forced to the middle. Yeah. Because we're not getting the wing support that we would normally get. I mean, I think Tsimikas has done really well, and he's definitely improved his performances, but he still cannot ping the, on the penny cross that Robertson can. And so we're kind of missing that. And so maybe it's coming from the training ground, right? Maybe it's something that's, we're looking at you to do one of the less vanilla moves and push forward. The other thing is both those guys are nice big boys that like to throw their weight around, and they can drive forward. And sometimes, when you just you get the ball and then you put your head down, you're looking through your eyebrows, as my high school coach used to say. Like the only thing you're doing is trying to move the ball forward instead of maybe looking for the easier passes. Whereas like the Henderson, Wijnaldum, Fabinho midfield was very much like, you're stopping and breaking up plays and then pushing it wide. That's all you're doing. We don't need you to take the shots. And I think Klopp is encouraging the shooting and the playmaking from the center of the field. So I think it's a little bit of both, because they both had early flashes of success and the fans start loving them and everything. And then that also goes to your head too.
I think, Sai says Garner need a perfect number 6. See, I'm not a fan of that, where that's like saying, oh, Trent needs this to play. You know what? Just fucking play. Like, you shouldn't be like, I need this, so I'm going to do my thing kind of a deal. Why don't you adjust your deal to fit what the team needs, as opposed to everybody around you changing? I mean, I would play better next to a great player too. I think that goes without saying, but you can't just sit and wait till a great player comes so that you're going to perform your best. I mean, the thing I get is, and I know what you're saying, Gordo, in terms of we knew what we were getting, but I think you have these guys who also have like a ridiculous work rate. They both do. But they have that work rate as an attacker who defends. Do we almost need him, John, to be more of a defender who can really freaking attack when they want? Because that's, I think, one thing you didn't get before. And I know they're both new. So down the road, because I always like to say this about Szoboszlai. I think he defends like an attacker, and there's a huge difference there where he's only trying to snatch the ball so he can go attack, as opposed to stopping the attack first and then pushing the ball kind of a deal. Do you think they will change over time, or like Saidu says, we just need somebody to cover those weaknesses and they will always be there?
Yeah, the covering weaknesses as a six is a dangerous proposition because I think that the reason why Fabinho got washed so quickly is because we were relying on him, to an extent too much, stopping those counters to, being that last line before our center backs come in. And, let's not mince words here. Klopp's style is a really risky style. Like we're always walking on a tightrope. And if one unit in the cog makes him, if one cog in the unit rather makes a mistake, we're pretty much, it's probably a 2-on-1 counter with Van Dijk covering the goal. We're pretty much exposed. So I think, to answer your question, Tim, I think they eventually get it. Like, again, we're kind of forgetting, we're with all our qualms with Gravenberg and Szoboszlai and even McAllister. This is their first year. They're gonna eventually, get it down. I think they're too good of players, too smart individual players to not, eventually work into the system. But I think these are kind of like the growing pains that come into, integrating an entirely new midfield. So definitely not a reason to panic. But obviously, we as fans, we watch them every week, so we could see the differences between this team and our best team. So we can't help but nitpick. But again, we do it as with all things, right? We should do it with moderation because these guys are just new. So that's like the caveat in all this, I feel.
And I think, Gordo, the number 6 thing is really dangerous because it reminds me of like the problems I think United has, where if the people in front of you are not working, it doesn't matter. You have a world class, you have the greatest 6 of all time, because they're going to get unnumbered. They're going to be lost. The ball is going to move around them. I mean, you look at all the players they've had. I mean, I watch Fred now, who now plays for Fenerbahce, oddly. And first of all, that guy is so happy now. I mean, you got to see him. Like, he just looks like a totally different guy. Like, he's like, oh man, this is why I love this game, kind of a thing, as opposed to the miserable guy we saw at United. And Fred plays for Brazil and stuff, like for the national team. But he was somehow not good enough. But I think he was just not good enough because when people around you don't work defensively, doesn't matter how good of a 6 you are, you're going to lose. Is that fair to say that these guys do have to turn it around and 6 is not going to solve that?
Yeah, I 100% agree, because you needed to defend as a unit, because now, as John said, our style under Klopp is so risky that we send so many people forward. Well, a lot of teams, I mean, look at a lot of the big teams that we're seeing having success are springing the counter, and the best way to spring the counter is everybody moves up as a unit. So you have to defend as a unit as well. If you're constantly facing the fast break, then you're also requiring everybody to get back on the ball. Now, one thing I know that, and I agree with you, I think Szoboszlai does defend like an attacker. However, there was a stat that came out after the weekend that he has the most takeaways of anyone in the Premier League at 112. So, I mean, yeah, he does defend like an attacker.
Yeah, but here's the thing with that. This is what kills me with these stats, though. This is what kills me with that stat. Because that stat does not tell you how many times it's like a cornerback who in football who goes for an interception. You can say the guy had 8 interceptions, but you got to also count the number of touchdowns he led because he jumped the routes and left the guy wide open. I think that stats, as great as it is, it kind of like does not consider the other part where he tried to win the ball and suddenly left a ton of space behind him and created a chance for the other team because he gambled. Is that fair, or am I just being too harsh on this guy?
He might be being too harsh, because if he's playing attacking midfielder, if he's in the center and he's expected to be up, then you sort of can allow, the Nunez's to miss a slide tackle, and as long as he's got that safety net behind him, right? You're hoping that there's
somebody... Wait a second now. Nunez, yes. But not because he's Nunez. But Nunez, yes, because he's the very top. But, I mean, where does the line stop of taking a risk and relying on the guy behind you? When Mo comes back and he defends, he does not defend like an attacker. He's back there. The Mo that came back against Doku in the City game came back there to defend, like as a defender. He didn't come there to see if I can snatch this ball and run at him.
He's got a good advantage though with his speed, where he can actually burn the guy with the ball to put himself in a good defensive position.
Yeah.
And allow himself to set up where, like, some of these other guys, they're turning and they're looking at the backs and numbers and they're trying to make a tackle from behind the play. So I mean, that's not an excuse either, because both those guys are relatively fast too, both Gravenberch and Szoboszlai. They're not slow guys by any means, but I think sometimes, like, Mo has that, he's got the soccer IQ that you can't teach, right? He knows where to put himself, and the best defenders, as they age, you'll see them, they stop going after the play and they start putting themselves in positions to break it up 3 steps ahead of themselves. And that's what I think Mo has. He has that ability to go, all right, I see the channel or the idea that he's got, I see where Trent's at, I'm going to drop back into this space and basically just smother him, force him into a cul-de-sac. So
at this point, Mo's used to trying to cover for Trent's ass, to be right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's
it's like, Trent's sleeping again. Let me help. Jeez.
Mitch says we have a more difficult game tomorrow, you guys. So we do have a game tomorrow, and I know Gordo and I will be here for the pre-match. John has to work or something crazy like that. I don't know what the hell that's all about.
Hey, I'll try and hit you guys up from the break room like last time.
Not too now that I know you're watching, I tried to wear a holiday sweater to match you, and it's not even showing up on the screen. So now I'm an idiot walking around at work with a holiday sweater on, and it just looks like I'm wearing a black sweater today.
You're trying to explain to everybody, no, it's for a podcast. You're like, yeah, sure, sure, it's for a podcast. So, John, what do you expect to see tomorrow, lineup-wise? I know, like, Serzi, for example, was saying, I think Elliot has forced his way to a starting position on Sunday, but I really feel like, for example, he's going to start tomorrow, which kind of eliminates him from starting on Sunday. But, like, what kind of a lineup? I think we're all in agreement that we don't want, like, a really hardcore lineup and risk any kind of injury, but you do have to put some guys out there. You can't just have everybody on the sideline.
Yeah, I think playing the kids is not an exaggeration. I think we'd mostly play the kids here. Obviously, Kelleher starts. The back line is going to be interesting. I think Gomez starts at center back next to Kwanzaa. And then we'd have probably Connor Bradley and I forgot the left back's name. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not too familiar with that one. Yeah, Scanleon. I forget his name. I actually think Gravenberch starts because I think I think he comes off the bench on Sunday against United, and break glass in case of emergency kind of deal. Our attack is going to be interesting. Obviously, I think Ben Doak on the right. On the left is a good question as well. And who's going to play striker? Because I think whoever he plays there, whether that's Darwin or Gakpo, the opposite is the other one is going to start on Sunday. So I'm going to say I want Gakpo against Man United. So I think it's Nunez.
Oh, how the turntables! How the turntables! Everybody's coming. Come over to Gakpo's way, people. Honestly, I can almost imagine if we had Mac, I could have imagined Gakpo in midfield against United, like with Nunez out there too. But the one thing that hurts that is I think Jota's injury. That eliminates any lack of options you can bring off the bench and stuff like that. But how about you, Gordo? Because I mean, here's the thing: who starts at defensive midfield? I guess is the question. By the way, speaking of defensive midfield, I do have to share this because we were talking about this. There were multiple sightings of Thiago yesterday. Like there was like him walking into practice and stuff like that. Seen over here, they're celebrating the 200th game he has missed due to injury. I thought that was a nice touch. But he is not available. But I wanted to make sure, like, people like Anand still has hope out there that he is alive and he is not sitting on a physio table. Well, maybe he got up for the picture. We don't know. But
although him and Adrian are standing next to each other, so maybe that's a Photoshop thing.
Photoshop from like an old Spanish
right. Because neither of those guys have been seen. It's just a missing persons photo that they've just kind of added. It's weird that they're the ones that are touching each other, right? It's like,
isn't that Google photo thing where you take your face? I guess, yeah, defensive midfield. Who starts as a defensive mid? Like, do you put Gravenberch over there to kind of control the shifts?
Well, I was told no by both of you. You guys vehemently shook your heads,
Maybe tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow we could get away with it. See how he goes there, right?
Sources says Thiago injured after shaking Salah's hand.
Yeah, it actually was. It was Adrian like holding him up by his shoulders. That's why it was.
He got a knock.
Just like weekend at Bernie's. Just
sprained finger or something.
I mean, hey, I wish he was back. Like I say, if you had those
Yeah.
guys, I think it would like Basetic and stuff like that would be a huge boost for a game like this, and in terms of depth and first of that defensive midfield position. But I guess for tomorrow again, Gordo, who's gonna start at that 6? Because with Mac, I mean, we assumed Endo when we were talking about it Monday night on the podcast, but obviously we didn't know how serious the Mac situation was. So now you're probably saving Endo for the weekend. Who goes 6?
That's a great question. I don't know. I can see Klopp going Endo both games. I really can. I think like I know it's super risky because you risk him getting injured, but he strikes me as someone that like really takes care of himself, like a Salah or a James Milner, and I think he can handle that. I mean, like, you know, Mo Salah could play every single game, every single minute, and I don't think we'd ever see him, you know, in a position where he's asking for days off. And I think Endo strikes me as that kind of person. And in a situation where, you know, you don't want to lose, but it doesn't really matter if you do or not, I can see him just play it easy. You're basically just going to be like a quarterback out there. Everything's going to come through you. You'll spray it out, make the tackles you need to, break it up, but don't get too involved in
Can you tell these guys that don't like to take? I mean, you can't tell me, for example. Like I start every game saying, like, even at this age, which actually worse as you get older, you're like, you know what? I gotta go to work the next day and stuff. Like once high school and college career is over and you're just playing for shits and giggles. Like I start every game and like I tell Angie, she just shakes her head because she knows better. She knows what's gonna happen 10 seconds later. But I'm, she'll be like, you going tonight? It's like, because I might be hurting or something. I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna go take it easy. Yeah, once it starts, there's no take it easy. Like, it's like you're playing, it's the adrenaline. It's like and I feel like obviously these guys are probably even more competitive than me, John. Can you put Endo in that situation? Or is it like basically like Gordo is saying, he probably, I would think too, like he looks like a guy who takes care of himself, is like a really, really professional. And then you just say, hey, give me a half today. That's it. Like you set the minutes for him. You're like 45 minutes, second half. By then we'll see what happens, kind of a deal.
Yeah, and I think Endo can benefit from like increased run because the fact that he's
games.
I mean, that's where I was going because like the thing with Endo, right? The thing with Endo that we're seeing is that he takes too long for his touch. So I think part of that might be a bit of a feel thing. He's not used to the pace of the game. So I think the more that we push him to play repeatedly might help. But that just might be me talking out of my ass. I don't know. Because, like, again, we don't have...
I can see that. I just don't know. I mean, I guess, like the speed of the game is different than the practice kind of an ordeal. But then again, he's going to be playing against Union. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be like Premier League pace either.
Yeah, I definitely can't see that. And obviously the risk is, he gets injured or something and we have no 6 again. So I think we play him because we just have no choice. Otherwise, or maybe there might be someone in the academy that we don't know about that Klopp's going to put in there. But yeah, I think he's going to be playing there. Again, shout might be Gravenberch playing, see how he does there because this is a low risk game. So we can see maybe how he does that. Another thing that came across my mind was putting Trent in there, but then obviously we don't want to risk anything. Yeah, for the high. I was actually going to bring that up for Sunday. How viable do you think, based on that Crystal Palace game, how viable do you think Trent in the 6 is? I can see Tim shaking his head, so I'll just give it to you, Gordo. Maybe I might get it.
Let me stop this, man.
I don't think. Well, I mean, and I know that like he's a good player, so like you give him 20 games, he'd figure it out on the 21st, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have 20 games to give him. He did play like a hybrid 6 role for England a couple of months ago, and it was god awful. I don't think it was just like, and you guys know, like when you play, if you're in a different spot, even if you switch from the right to the left wing, it's like the whole field looks like foreign language. You're like, where do I? oh, you start going, if he's a right-sided defender, he starts just automatically going left because that's usually the only space that he has when he's playing. And it's like, wait, I have all the right next to me, and like you're kind of, you got blinders on one side of you. I just don't think it's when you're played at one side for so long, I don't think it's possible.
So you think, Tim, it's just like a situational kind of thing? It's never going to be like an option to start games?
Yeah, it's almost like, when you throw everything at it because you need
Yeah.
goals and you got nothing to lose. I mean, that would be the only scenario I would do that, because now you have even an attacker in some ways as a 6. So I can definitely see that in that sense. But yeah, starting a game, like the whole love affair that everybody has with this creativity and stuff, but he can't defend, so let's put him in
God
midfield.
damn the creative!
Like
You sound like Roy.
All right, guys.
Oh,
Let me
yeah,
ask you.
creativity.
Like y'all have your opinions on it. What do you guys think Klopp thinks about it? You think he's eventually gonna go there, like from how we know him? Because the fact that he's kind of putting him there, maybe it's just crossing his mind a little bit. No?
I think he's still too young because like sometimes you see like really good defenders that are wingers like slowly move to center back as the years progress and they become solid center backs.
Like
So
Lam and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
way like, right?
yeah. Even Jamie Carragher. I mean, he started off as a winger, like a midfield player, and then slowly moved to right back, then went into center back. So I think if you could definitely teach that. The problem is like I still don't think that Trent is a good enough defender to be a 6.
It's like you can't have like the concept of he can't defend, so let's put him in midfield is like the stupidest statements like ever, because you can't have a guy who doesn't track back like as a defense. It just does not make sense. He's never going to follow it. So the midfielders of the opposing team are going to be like having a party playing poker in the middle of your box because your midfield is not tracking them back.
How about as an 8?
Yeah, maybe I can go. I would rather do that because it would be like, but I mean, it's like basically what we have with Soboslai right now. So you guys are thinking with your old man brains. First of all, that's giving us a lot of credit. I will have to say. But that's way too much credit. Young and adaptable. He's not young anymore.
25, right?
He's not a kid anymore. Like you either learn the shit. I mean, yeah, he's young. Like Gordo is saying, as things change, you mature into a different position, maybe. But you're not suddenly going to become a guy who tracks back or who like watches run. That does not change. Like you might adjust other aspects of your game, or you might find ways to make up for your weaknesses and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just don't see him suddenly saying like, run back with him. God, see, I didn't know that. I'm young. And that shit doesn't happen.
I've gotten worse in my older age. Is like I used to track back, 80% of the time. And then now that I'm older, I'm like maybe 15% of the time. I'm like, you know what, guys? I'm going to get you a goal. Okay, so you can defend. I'm going to save my energy and I'll score, a crucial goal. And that's my justification of why I don't track back anymore. So if I feel like anybody would get worse and worse at tracking back. So if you're already bad at tracking back at 25, you're definitely not going to come back at 30.
Wait, I'll give you a tip because this is what I see from older guys playing. If you don't want to track back, you fake a hard press. So it doesn't look like you were not tracking back. It looks like, I pressed really hard over there, but they got past me, man. Damn,
I do.
So it doesn't look like you're not tracking back. That's what I
do. I do the injured gazelle where like I'm still bouncing. I'm like trying to fake the tiger out that I'm like, hey, look at me, I'm still healthy. I'm bouncing around even though it's taking all my energy to keep moving. It's just like
I played a cowardly goalie who's afraid to get out of his line, so get out of his box. So I can't really relate to y'all guys. So
it just says, hey, we continue to play Nunes up front in hopes that he adjusts and learns how to score. We'll save this one for Anan on Friday. But I mean, I think at least you can say, okay, with him, I feel it's different because it's a different system. You can see certain things we have from him, and you're trying to get the most out of those strengths. I just don't think that, with Trent, the tracking back thing, that's not going to change. And I think that's why, if you think Klopp is kind of like, hey, trying it out, I think Klopp is trying to find ways of, he's a ridiculous talent. like passing wise, vision wise, he's a ridiculous talent. So you can't just at the same time say, "Oh, he doesn't track back, so I guess he's not playing."
Why I brought it up,
to get the
Tim?
best.
Why I brought it up, Tim? Because I feel like Joe Gomez is gonna make that right back position his own. Like that that cameo from him.
Tables.
Yeah, that cameo from him was, like, I don't know, man. That right back performance from him, where I was as confident with him going forward as he was tracking back and being a defensive right back, is something I haven't felt in a long time. So, and I've been a huge proponent for Joe Gomez to get out of center back and actually move into fullback position. So I think he has a chance to make that his own. I don't know what y'all think, but yeah, because like
every a bunch of games.
Sorry.
I just want to see it like a bunch of, like, some consistency, like see him do that 2-3 games in a row. But I've been always a huge Gomez fan. I just don't know the problem with Gomez at right back. Saidu. See, I knew Saidu. It's like the Batman signal. If you say Gomez, Henderson, or Jones, Saidu shows up. But I think the problem with that is, especially now, he's your backup left back, backup right back, backup center back. So you can't. If you put that now, who's backing up Costas? Who's backing up the center back and stuff like that? And yeah.
Hey, if it happens tomorrow, that's no harm done. It's a rubber game, Cersei, so I don't take any responsibility for that. If that happens,
all right, this is a good way to leave us over here. So, football flashback is here. I don't even know how this guy has any money left in his betting account, but he wants to know which bet should I put on: hat trick of goals versus United or a hat trick of assists. I would think the rate is good on this. I would take a Gakpo goal against United. I will put a wager on that, whether he starts or not.
I put a Nunes hat trick, and everyone.
You like those? You like the odds, huh?
Everyone swirls their pants again for him, and then we don't see a performance like that for another 2.5 months. That's what. And he scores 2 really good goals and a nice easy one, and 2 of them are assisted by Salah. That's what I would say.
Did he have 2 in that 7? I know Gakpo had 2. Did Nunez have 2 that game?
Yeah, they both had 2.
I remember the header. I can't envision the other goal by Nunez. In that 7-goal game.
Wait, Gakpo had 2.
Wasn't it the one that came over his shoulder and he like redirected it? Like he just kind of like held his foot out and redirected. It was like a beautiful like technical chip, or was that a different game?
Yeah, now you guys got me on this. Okay, let's count the goals. Damn it. Like, this is the old man show. All we need is like bring Roy as a guest, and then we're all set. So you had definitely 2 by Gakpo. You had Bobby finish him off.
Yeah.
You had at least 1 from Mo. We're at 4. What are the other goals?
Mo had another one when he took his shirt off.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's right. So 2 from Mo, 2 from Gakpo, 4. Bobby,
and then the header.
5.
I think Nunez had 2 as well. So
I just can't remember the second goal. Somebody help out over here in the audience. The goals. See, now I'm gonna have to freaking Google. But
that's football flashbacks.
No cheating, people. Try to get that. Yeah, football flashback should be the one.
Yeah,
flashing back these memories.
Yeah, text your bookie, please.
What were the odds for that game? Who else was playing that game? That's did Jones get one? No.
Yeah, it was. It was Nunez twice. Yeah, I just looked. Gakpo twice, Nunez twice, Salah twice, Firmino, 88th minute.
Oh, I just got Bobby's book, by the way, guys. I'm excited to read it.
I hope you got the English version.
Yeah, I got the English version. I made sure.
When you open the pages up, do they glow? That's what I was hoping. It's like little fragments.
Widest paper you guys got.
Yeah. I got another one for you guys, for the bookmakers. What are the odds you guys think if we beat United on Sunday, Ten Hag goes? You guys think he goes if we beat them?
I think it's a scoreline issue.
Yes, I agree.
If it's 1-0, look here. The biggest risk this weekend is that everyone thinks it's going to be 5 or 6-0. Yeah. And if it's not, it's a victory for United in terms of performance. So if United can hold us to 1 or 2-0, or even 2-1, or make it a game, it's a victory for Ten Hag. So, and that's the danger with this weekend. So I do think that it's based on scoreline. If we see another 5 or 7-0, he's gone.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's, and that's what scares me about this weekend. It feels like they have nothing to lose. They already sucked. There we go. Yeah, I still can't remember Nunez' second goal.
Me too.
I just remember the header from Saidu's favorite, Henderson's cross, from the left-hand side. I remember that header. I just cannot remember the other goal, and that came probably in the first half. But
Cersei said Poch will be gone before Ten Hag. Really? Dang.
Heck, I mean, if you ask Anand, he thinks Eddie Howe is going to be gone from it.
Yeah, these predictions.
There's also that. If you want crazy takes, these mornings are the place to be. Okay, before we run over here, I mean, I guess we're going to be here tomorrow morning with Gordo anyway, but you as a sucker who has to work tomorrow, what do you have for a prediction, John? We'll take your prediction to go.
I'll take a 2-1 win. But at the end of the day, like whatever happens, happens, you know. As long as we don't get any injuries from the main guys, it's a win for me, regardless of the result.
Second goal and fifth goal. Man, that is freaking killing me, that second goal. Now, you know, I was going to work afterwards. Now I'm going to have to go pull up the highlights and see if I can remember. That's like the old man syndrome kicks in. It's going to be Roy all over again. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think we don't. Right, John, you're right. I think it's just like I don't even care like the result. It'll be fun to watch some of these young guys tomorrow. But the weekend is the big one, top of the league. Let's keep going on that, and just no injuries. Last thing we want is like the Jota incident that we had the last time. I think possibly the last time we played such a meaningless rubber game. Now we've had games where it was just like, yeah, we're already on the second. I mean, this is just totally in that category. But before we go, do not forget, got like 4 days left over here to head on to our sponsors, Reckless Coffee Roasters, recklesscoffeeroasters.com, as you can see over there. Send your loved one awesome Christmas gifts. I know you guys are shopping for me, which I appreciate, John, Gordo. So I'm just saying, I'm not saying.
Oh yeah, I got another pack of beans from my dad because we ran out. So.
Nice.
Well, I was thinking more like as a Christmas gift, but you just bought your dad coffee, so that doesn't.
Yeah.
You should have waited for Christmas. See.
Oh, we need to keep Tim. We need to keep the engine running here, man. Without coffee, without Reckless coffee, I'm nothing.
Well, as always, thanks everybody for joining in. I'll be back tonight with the panel. I don't think Alan is going to be there representing Arsenal. Convenient, I say, but he's not going to be able to make it. But yeah, we'll be back tonight live, 8 o'clock Central. Talk with the boys about everything that happened in the Premier League. And then I know Gordo and I definitely will be back along with some contributors tomorrow before the pre-match. Once the lineup comes out to see what the hell is going on with that, because it should be an interesting lineup just to take a look at and figure things out. But have an awesome Wednesday, everybody. Take care.